Hi, I'm John Kelly. I'm a personal injury attorney with a focus on birth injuries. I want to talk to you as I continue this series about Kernicterus. So, this is part 3 of a multi series videos that I'm doing on birth injuries. Most newborns develop some jaundice, a yellowing of the skin and eyes, in their first days of life. In the vast majority of cases, it's mild and resolves with simple treatment. However, when a newborn jaundice becomes extremely high and is not treated in time, it can lead to a devastating brain injury called kernicterus. Hearing that your child has kernicterus can come as a shock. Parents often think of jaundice as common or not serious, so a brain injury from this feels unimaginable. Kernicterus is fortunately very rare in modern medicine, occurring in roughly 0.5 to 1 per 100,000 births in high-resource countries where newborns are routinely screened and treated for jaundice. But if it does happen, the consequences can be life-altering. Kernicterus can cause a type of cerebral palsy, hearing loss, or other permanent neurological problems. In this section, we'll explain how kernicterus occurs, what the outcomes and treatments are, and how families can find support and recourse. I'll now go over the medical explanation and causes of kernicterus. Kernicterus is essentially brain damage caused by excess bilirubin, the yellow pigment in the bile that causes jaundice. Newborns often have elevated bilirubin because their newborn livers are still maturing and they break down fetal red blood cells rapidly after birth. In most cases, bilirubin levels peak and then decline with mild interventions like phototherapy, light therapy. Kernicterus occurs when bilirubin levels get extremely high. This is usually greater than 25 to 30 milligrams per deciliter. And the bilirubin crosses into the blood-brain barrier, damaging areas like the basal ganglia and brainstem nuclei. This condition is also called bilirubin encephalopathy. There are known risk factors that can cause dangerously high jaundice. Blood type incompatibilities such as Rh or ABO incompatibility between mother and baby can lead to a rapid breakdown of the baby's red blood cells, releasing large amounts of bilirubin. Genetic conditions like G6PD deficiency, which is more common in certain ethnic groups, or other hemolytic diseases can trigger very high bilirubin. Premature babies are higher risk because their livers process bilirubin less efficiently. Even extensive bruising or a cephalohematoma from difficult birth can increase bilirubin, as blood from the bruise is reabsorbed. In essence, kernicterus happens when jaundice is not recognized and treated soon enough. This is why hospitals closely monitor bilirubin in the first 48 to 72 hours after birth, and why pediatricians schedule newborn follow-ups within the first few days of discharge. They want to catch any rising jaundice. What's important to understand is that kernicterus is also entirely preventable with proper care. If bilirubin gets high, intensive phototherapy, which is blue light blankets or lamps, will break down the bilirubin in severe cases and exchange transfusion. Replacing the baby's blood with donor's blood can quickly bring levels down before the brain damage occurs. Kernicterus tends to occur when there are lapses in these protocols. For example, if a newborn is discharged early and not brought back for bilirubin check, or if the lab result is misinterpreted or the treatment is delayed, these can cause problems. Some parents of kernicterus children later learn that the medical staff missed the warning signs or didn't initiate phototherapy promptly. Knowing the causes and the chain of events is important both for understanding your child's condition, for any potential accountability, which we'll discuss under our legal resources. I'll now go over incidence and impact of kernicterus. As noted, kernicterus has become rare in countries with modern newborn care, on the order of 1 in 100,000 births or fewer. However, when it does happen, the impact is significant. Kernicterus usually causes a form of cerebral palsy characterized by involuntary movements, muscle tone fluctuations, and trouble with motor control. Babies with Kernicterus may initially present with extreme sleepiness, poor feeding, a high-pitched cry, or arching of the body, signs of acute bilirubin toxicity. If not reversed in time, they can develop the chronic form that Kernicterus survivors often have: cerebral palsy, often athenoid or dystonic CP. This leads to difficulties in controlling muscles. They may have trouble coordinating their arms and legs, may experience muscle stiffness or random movements, and often cannot walk or sit without assistance, depending on the severity. Bilirubin is, particular toxic to certain areas of the brain, including those related to hearing. Many children with Kernicterus have partial or total sensorial hearing loss, or a condition called auditory neuropathy. The ears may detect sound, but the signal processing to the brain is impaired. This means they might need hearing aids or cochlear implants and special education for deaf, hard of hearing communication. They also have vision and dental issues at times. Kernicterus can impact the cranial nerves controlling the eye movements, leading to gaze abnormalities. For example, difficulty looking upward. It can also affect tooth enamel formation. Some children have dental enamel hypoplasia, weak tooth enamel as they grow. Intellectual development is also affected. Interestingly, Kernicterus does not always cause severe cognitive impairment. Some children have near normal intelligence, while others have learning difficulties. The damage in Kernicterus tends to be more in motor areas, but in severe cases, or if there were additional complications like lack of oxygen along with the jaundice, cognition can certainly be affected. Each child's outcome can differ. Some may be bright and aware, but locked in, as the body doesn't cooperate, where others may have intellectual disabilities as well. The financial and emotional impact on families is substantial. A child with Kernicterus will typically require lifelong medical care, therapies, adaptive equipment, and possibly surgeries. Similar to children with other forms of cerebral palsy, the lifetime cost easily reaches into the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, not to mention the toll on the family life and the careers when a parent often must become a caregiver or coordinate constant appointments. I now would like to go over the treatment and management. If Kernicterus has occurred, the acute phase of treating high bilirubin is usually over. By the time the diagnosis is evident, the focus shifts from managing the resulting conditions. There is sadly no way to reverse brain damage from Kernicterus once it's established, so treatment is essentially the same as caring for a child with cerebral palsy and hearing loss, the two primary outcomes. This means assembling a multidisciplinary care team for your child that may include a pediatric neurologist, a pediatric rehabilitation specialist, an audiologist, a hearing specialist, and various therapies such as physical, occupational, and speech therapies. Early intervention services should be involved as soon as possible to start the therapies, even in infancy. Physical therapy will work on muscle tone, range of motion, and preventing contractures. Occupational therapy will help with fine motor skills and eventually with adaptive techniques for daily living, like specialized utensils for eating. Speech therapy might actually focus first on feeding and swallowing if the muscles are affected. Many Kernicterus babies have trouble coordinating suck, swallow, and later speech. As the child grows, speech therapy also helps with communication. Some children learn to speak, while others might use sign language, especially if hearing is affected, or assistive communication devices if motor impairment makes speech difficult. For the hearing loss aspect, you will be working with audiologists and ENT doctors. They will determine the degree of hearing impairment. Some children with Kernicterus benefit from hearing aids, while others with more profound loss might be candidates for cochlear implants, which are electrical devices that stimulate the hearing nerve directly. Learning sign language as a family can be very helpful to facilitate communication. Even if the child gets an implant, as implants may restore normal hearing fully, early introduction of visual language can reduce frustration and boost cognitive development. Medically, children with Kernicterus might need treatment similar to CP patients. Medications like muscle relaxants can ease dystonia and anti-seizure medications if they develop seizures. Some may require nutritional support if they have trouble feeding. For instance, a G-tube feeding tube if oral feeding isn't sufficient. The prognosis for children with Kernicterus varies. Many will have significant physical disabilities, but can also live into adulthood with proper care. Some may be able to attend school with accommodations and even go to have jobs, especially if the intellect is intact, whereas others will need full-time care. A lot depends on the extent of damage and the interventions provided. With modern therapies and assistive technologies, individuals with Kernicterus can still engage with the world. For example, through powered wheelchairs for mobility, computer-based communication devices, etc., can help them tremendously. As a parent, focusing on what your child can do and helping them reach their personal potential is key. Celebrate the small victories. A new word signed, a slight improvement in head control, etc., is each a step forward. I'll now go over emotional and family support. Adjusting to a Kernicterus diagnosis can be an emotional whirlwind. Often there is a strong sense of anger or betrayal. This was preventable. How did my baby get hurt from something as common as jaundice? It's completely normal to feel angry at the situation and potentially at the medical providers if the mistakes were made. Parents also commonly experience guilt. If only I had known the signs, if only I had pushed for a bilirubin check sooner. It's important to remember that as a parent, you did your best you could with the information you had. The responsibility for you preventing Kernicterus primarily lies with the healthcare providers, who are trained to monitor and treat jaundice. Be kind to yourself and recognize that you are not at fault for this rare outcome. Emotional support for families affected by Kernicterus is similar to that of families of children with cerebral palsy or other significant disabilities. Seeking out therapists or a counselor who understands chronic medical conditions or birth trauma can provide a safe space to process your feelings. Many such parents experience symptoms of PTSD or other prolonged anxiety. Counseling can offer coping strategies. Couples may find it challenging to navigate the stress. Some benefit from couples therapy to keep communication open and support each other. Connecting with other families who have children with cerebral palsy or hearing impairment can be very beneficial. Although Kernicterus itself is uncommon, the community of parents with kids with CP is large and welcoming. Organizations like United Cerebral Palsy, UCP, have long had chapters and support resources like parent mentors. Even online Facebook groups focused on cerebral palsy and other conditions similar can connect you with parents facing similar challenges. For example, how to manage feeding issues or which wheelchair to choose. Since hearing loss is a component, you might also tap into communities for parents of deaf and hard of hearing children. For instance, the A.G. Bell Association or Hands and Voices. These offer guidance on raising a child with hearing loss. These groups can help with practical tips like navigating early intervention for hearing services or choosing a sign language class. Some families affected by Kernicterus have formed informal networks. There was at one point a Kernicterus Center initiative advocacy by parents to raise awareness so that there no more babies suffer this fate. You might find Facebook groups dedicated to Kernicterus or pediatric stroke, brain injury groups that include it. Even if the group is small, just talking to another parent who has walked this road, whose child perhaps is a few years older, can give you hope and a sense of camaraderie. Also, lean on friends and family. Let them know specific ways they can help. People often want to help but don't know how. You might ask a close friend to coordinate a meal train during the hectic medical appointment weeks. Or you have family babysit siblings so you can focus on child therapy sessions. Remember, taking care of yourself is crucial too. Respite care services, some nonprofit or state programs can fund skilled caregivers to give you a break and might be available so you can recharge. Every parent of a child with special needs hears the phrase, "It's a marathon, not a sprint." Kernicterus may have been an acute event, but effects are long-term. Pace yourself, celebrate your child's progress, and seek community. These steps will ease the emotional burden over time. I now want to go over the legal process for parents with a child with Kernicterus. Kernicterus is widely recognized in the medical community as a never event, meaning it is something that should virtually never happen if proper protocols are in place. Because of this, many Kernicterus cases involve clear elements of medical negligence, such as failure to treat a newborn's high bilirubin or failure to follow up on lab results. Parents absolutely have the right to pursue legal action if their baby developed Kernicterus due to substandard care. In fact, there have been a number of high-profile Kernicterus legal cases, and juries have not been shy about holding hospitals accountable. For example, an Arkansas family was awarded $46.5 million by a jury after their baby suffered permanent brain damage from untreated jaundice, one of the largest Kernicterus verdicts on record. There have been multiple settlements in the range of $5 to $12 million in Kernicterus cases in the last 2 decades. Reflecting on the lifeline care costs and the preventable nature of this injury is important. If you suspect your child's Kernicterus was caused by medical oversight, it's advisable to contact a birth injury attorney or a medical malpractice attorney, such as myself, experienced in neonatal cases. They can help obtain and review the medical records, including bilirubin charts, nurses' notes, and to see if the proper guidelines were followed. Important questions in such cases include, did the hospital perform bilirubin screenings at the recommended times? Were their results interpreted correctly using the baby's age and hours? Did they initiate phototherapy or follow-up checks when levels are high or normal? Were risk factors like blood type incompatibility noted and addressed? If the answer to any of this is no, there may have been negligence. Sometimes Kernicterus happens even in the hospital if a baby's levels spike very quickly or if phototherapy equipment malfunctions, but these scenarios are rare. Often it's systematic or human error, like missed lab or wait and see approach that went tragically wrong. Pursuing a lawsuit can not only provide compensation to cover your child's extensive medical care and needs, but it can also drive changes in the practice. Some hospitals, after facing Kernicterus case, have improved their jaundice management protocols to ensure it will never happen again. Your attorneys will likely work with medical experts who are passionate about patient safety, and they can testify about what should have been done. While the legal process can be lengthy and emotional and taxing, many families find empowerment in holding the responsible parties accountable. Financially, a successful claim can fund things like specialized therapies not covered by insurance, home modifications such as wheelchairs and ramps, communication devices, and a trust for child's future needs. Keep in mind there are statute of limitations, and these vary, but for infants, often the clock might start ticking from the time of injury or discovery of the injury, but most states have a tolling of that time. And some all the way up to 18 years old, and a couple of years after that, they can bring a claim. So some of these states do allow a lawsuit within a certain number of years after the child's birth or before their 8th or 18th birthday for pediatric cases. An attorney can clarify the deadline in your state. Even if you're not the litigious type, consider at least a legal consultation. Many families say that the financial support from a settlement was crucial in giving their child the best quality of life possible. Your focus should always be on your child's well-being, and sometimes legal recourse is a means to ensure you have the resources to provide that well-being. Now that you've gone over your legal options, you may have a more clear understanding of what the future legal process might look like. And as focused on these birth injuries and Kernicterus in particular, I can tell you that there are options, and if you would like an attorney to review your records and determine if there's a viable case, I'm happy to sit down and discuss the case with you. You're always free to reach out to me at Kelly Law Team at 602-283-4122, and I'd be happy to give you a free consultation on this subject.